Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Eloisa Ramos, and we are here to study the text of A Course in Miracles. And joining me is Sonia. Hi, Sonia, my daughter, and Connie, my friend. Hi, Connie. And today we are reading from chapter 7, The Gifts of the Kingdom. And we are on section 4, which is healing as the recognition of truth. Okay, and just before we started, I was mentioning that prior to this, we had read that healing is the release of fear. So therefore, the release of fear, when we release fear, there is you might say, a clearing in the mind that allows us to recognize truth. So a lot of times it's an insight that we receive with the healing. Okay, paragraph 1. Truth can only be recognized and need only be recognized. Inspiration is of the Holy Spirit, and certainty is of God according to his laws. Both, therefore, come from the same source. Since inspiration comes from the voice for God, and certainty comes from the laws of God, healing does not come directly from God, who knows his creations as perfectly whole. Yet healing is still of God because it proceeds from his voice and from his laws. It is their result in a state of mind that does not know him. The state is unknown to him and therefore does not exist. But those who sleep are unaware. Because they are unaware, they do not know. Okay, so this is a little bit about what I was mentioning with that healing clears the mind of the thoughts that are not true. And so there's this clarity, there's this insight. You could say that there's like a light shines through to recognize the truth that has always been there. And that's why the line one says truth can only be recognized and need only be recognized. So you could say there's a little awakening of that mind that was lost in a dream because it fell asleep. So the Holy Spirit, which is our link to that truth, is the voice for God, for truth. And it's another word for Holy Spirit is inspiration. So to be inspired is to be in spirit. And let's see, and to be in spirit is to be open to the communication of truth. Okay, and certainty is of God according to his laws. And so there is no there's no doubt, there's no fear when the mind is completely open, because there's no blocks to the awareness of love's presence. So when it's completely open, there is no fear, there is no darkness, there's just certainty in that moment. Let's see. So both certainty and inspiration come from the same source with a capital S. And we were just talking about art right before we came on, and I think that's kind of what we were getting at. And it's that there is that art has that possibility for opening us to the let's see, for being a channel, an instrument of communication for that inspiration that the artist put forth in their art piece. Yeah. So it's almost like a it's almost like a trigger that reminds us when we are looking at it of that light within us, that it's within everyone. Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, so they both have the same source, of course, since inspiration comes from the voice for God and certainty comes from the loss of God. So healing does not come directly from God, who knows his creations as perfectly whole. Yet healing is still of God because it proceeds from his voice and from his loss. So healing is the result of opening the mind to the voice for the Holy Spirit and remembering that only the laws of God are true, which is to be in our right mind. And therefore it undoes fear, and it undoes uncertainty. It undoes the belief in separation. So let's see, 6, it is their result in a state of mind that does not know him. Yes, so healing results in a state of mind that has forgotten, that has chosen perception over knowledge. And therefore, by choosing perception, it's as if we don't know God, as if we don't know what we are in truth, one with God. And that state of mind we call mind asleep. So 7, and that state is unknown to him, to God with a capital H, because God created mind awake only, not mind asleep, and therefore does not exist. But those who sleep are unaware. So to believe that the mind can sleep is to be unaware that the mind is awake. And because they are unaware, they do not know. So it's a decision to perceive, which is really just a decision to go into uncertainty and fear, because perception uses the idea of the body's senses to quote unquote know things without complete certainty, of course, because the body's senses are limited and there's always error. And so we forget what that state of certainty is. And that's what unawareness is. But it's still there. It's just a matter of, let's see. Yes, of opening the mind to that voice, which is the Holy Spirit, so that we can recognize what has always been there and is still there, which is the truth. Okay. All right. Number 2.
The Holy Spirit must work through you to teach you He is in you. This is an intermediary step toward the knowledge that you are in God because you are part of Him. The miracles the Holy Spirit inspires can have no order of difficulty because every part of creation is of one order. This is God's will and yours. The laws of God establish this, and the Holy Spirit reminds you of it. When you heal, you are remembering the laws of God and forgetting the laws of the ego. I said before that forgetting is merely a way of remembering better. It is therefore not the opposite of remembering when it is properly perceived. Perceived improperly, it induces a perception of conflict with something else, as all incorrect perception does. Properly perceived, it can be used as a way out of conflict, as all proper perception can.
Anything, Sonia?
Um, yeah, I just like it because it uses forgetting and remembering. Because like I used to think like, oh, if I forget, everything that I've been taught in terms of like the ego world and stuff, um, I'd be losing like everything, you know. But it's not really that you're forgetting, it's just you're forgetting nothing. So how can you forget nothing if it's nothing? You're only remembering the truth, which is just, yeah, I don't know. And that just kind of tripped me up when I was thinking about that.
Yes. Yeah, so it makes a really good distinction here in line 6. When you heal, you are remembering the loss of God. Okay, and those those laws of God are what is the truth, therefore what is reality. And we are forgetting the loss of the ego, which are really the loss of the world. And of course, we have confused the loss of the world with reality. So that's why it seems like, well, how can I forget the loss of the world? That's what I am under the influence of, like gravity and well, the world has lost like the law, quote unquote, the law of reciprocity, okay, or the law of no pain, no gain, um, but 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 there's an error in those laws, and that's why they're not the laws of God. Um, and um, and so to forget the error that we've made, which is in a world where there are opposites that conflict, and therefore that show us separation, which is not true, is not a loss at all. It's a way to remember the truth better. It's a way to remember what is true better. And that's why 8 says, it is therefore not the opposite of remembering when it is properly perceived. So, so what it's saying is that remembering is like when you think about light and darkness, we tend to think of them as opposite, but they're not opposites, because darkness has no reality in and of itself. It is simply a result of light being blocked. Okay, and that's what it's saying here too, that remembering, that forgetting is not the opposite of remembering, is that forgetting is a block that we place when we close the mind to remembering the truth. You see what I'm saying? If you remove the block, then there's no darkness, there's light. So if you remove the block, then there's a remembering. And what you let go of is the forgetting. Yes, but if we perceive those improperly, then we're going to perceive conflict. And that's when we perceive the idea that what is truth, what is God, can have an opposite, because we think, oh, well, darkness battles light, like in Star Wars, the kind of a thing. Or I can oppose remembering simply by forgetting, and therefore erase what is true just by forgetting it. Well, no, it doesn't work like that. um, it's a little bit like, let's see, it's a little bit like, I would say, my mom had Alzheimer's, and I remember kind of her strategy to dealing with some of what was painful or difficult in life. And the advice that she gave my sister, she would say something like, oh, if your husband, gets angry and yells at you or something, just like, just pretend that you don't hear it, or just just like kind of like deny that it's there. Do you see what I'm saying? So and therefore we don't look at the problem as and make that the solution, which is not really a solution, because the problem's still there. So so what it's saying is if you properly perceive what seems to be an opposite, and you look at it, you will see that it's not really an opposite. You will see that it's not true. Therefore, the ego thought system, if you are open to looking at it without judgment, okay, you will see that it cannot oppose the truth, and that it's not true. It's an illusion. And that recognition will dispel it. Because, let's see, because it's a block to the awareness of love's presence. And if we don't look at the block, that is the problem. Because we're protecting the block by not looking at it and not recognizing that it's not real. I don't know if that was clear. But Connie, did you have any questions on that?
Well, it makes me think of Chris and I got into a conversation about, the virus is not real. He has a problem with that. And, on this earthly plane, I do as well. I mean, I don't go around in fear about it anymore, but I'm just, but to try to stress that point that it's not real when, it appears all these people have died. And I do understand that in reality, there can be none of this going on. And we think we're here and in this illusion, and it's something to reckon with, reconcile. Well, or even, it's a tricky one. I'm
Well,
certain. Go ahead.
yeah, but it's a matter of identity. It's a matter of what you want to believe you are.
And I do No, a lot of people, and of course, people are evolved people, whatever, not evolved, who have had this virus. And I myself am not going to just go out and chance myself in anything and everything. Just because I'm not there yet. I'm not on that level yet to really know that it's really not there.
Yes. So that's why we need the miracle. Okay. Because look at line 3. The miracles the Holy Spirit inspires can have no order of difficulty. Okay. And what we're talking about here is really about an order of difficulty. We're saying, well, thousands and millions of people maybe have died of this virus. How could this not have reality? Okay. Okay, because in the world we give causality to the body to make illness. And a virus is a body that, quote unquote, makes illness. Okay. But the Course says that that's a level confusion, and that is to believe that the body is creative and that is the source of all the symptoms. Okay. And so the miracle is what will heal that level confusion, and the symptoms will just disappear. Okay, and I've had plenty of experiences where I was in a lot of physical pain and my symptoms just disappeared. Okay, because I looked at the error, and just like it says here, the Holy Spirit must work through you to teach you that He is in you. And that light within me just dispelled it, and all the symptoms went with it. Okay. So I can
You
say
have to be real clear in that process. Really clear. No conflict there at all. I mean, just boom.
well, because I've seen it so many times that to me, miracles are normal and everyday. That's what the Course says. And I do. That's what the Course says, that miracles are normal and everyday. Yeah. And I do. I see them every day. So there really is no order of difficulty for the miracle, okay, because it's out of time. And this is talking about the loss of God and the loss of the world, which we make up. Okay, the mind makes up the loss of the world. That's why we elect people to government, because they make up the laws for us. Okay, well, it's no different than any of the natural laws, because who made the world? The world is a projection of our mind. Okay, but if we don't take responsibility, if we don't accept that our mind is that powerful, then we're going to believe that the world and the loss of the world have nothing to do with our mind and are kind of an entity of their own, and that we are subject and slave to them. And that's what an imprisoned will is, because we have given over the power to the world, to the natural forces of the world. And look at Jesus. He walked on water. Did he give the power over to nature? No, he did not. He was walking on water in the middle of a storm. Okay. And he is our brother. He is how God created us. But if we want to make him different than what we are, then we're going to believe that that's true. And so it will be in our experience.
So it's basically a level confusion,
Mhm.
which making the body the cause rather than,
The mind.
yes,
Yes.
God, mind. Yeah,
Mhm.
yes.
Yes. And number 6 says, when you heal, you are remembering the loss of God and forgetting the loss of the ego.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why the mind is sick. And that's why we have things like COVID, because the world has to reflect our thinking. And if our thinking is sick, well, then there's going to be sickness in the world.
And the part about no levels, I mean, that's that, that, yeah, there are no levels.
There are,
But, yeah, and this virus seems like, well, it's bigger than everything and anything.
yes, but to the miracle, there's no order of difficulty.
Right, right.
Yeah,
That's, yeah.
yeah.
Okey
Because
doke.
because we have to remember that the laws of God are not subject to time. They're beyond time.
Or interpretation.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that's what truth is. Yeah. Mhm. And so the miracle number line 2 is necessary because it's an intermediary step towards the knowledge that you are in God because you are a part of him. So as long as we believe that we are separate from God, we're going to be choosing perception over knowledge. So it's about remembering the truth and returning to knowledge. And there's steps, so this step here, the Holy Spirit must work through you to teach you that he is in you. This is an intermediary step on our way to knowledge, that we're not really here, we're in God because we are a part of God and we cannot be separate from God, and therefore the separation never happened. So there's always that one problem, which is the problem of separation. And that's really the only problem that we're working to heal in a lot of different forms. Yeah, so the idea of opposition can be used by the Holy Spirit to heal perception and to recognize that there are no such things as opposites, because absolute truth does not have an opposite. So in the world, there seems to be opposites, but to God, there are no opposites. And that's why to God, sickness has no reality, because God did not create sickness. Yeah. So our mind must have made it up. And so the mind that made it can unmake it. Yeah.
We made up a doozy. They keep, okay, all right, I'm gonna stop. Okay.
Number
We
3.
can do it. We can really do it. Okay. The ego does not want to teach everyone all it has learned because that would defeat its purpose. Therefore, it does not really learn at all. The Holy Spirit teaches you to use what the ego has made to teach the opposite of what the ego has learned. The kind of learning is as irrelevant as is the particular ability that was applied to the learning. All you need to do is make the effort to learn, for the Holy Spirit has a unified goal for the effort. If different abilities are applied long enough to one goal, the abilities themselves become unified. This is because they are channelized in one direction or in one way. Ultimately, then, they all contribute to one result. And by doing so, their similarity, rather than their differences, is emphasized. So what we need to do is make that effort to learn through the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, and the abilities don't have to be the same. It's the direction. You know, it's that willingness to open up to truth that unites all the channels of communication and contributes to one result. So we want to focus on what's the same and not what is different. Let's see, the ego does not want to teach everyone all it has learned because that would defeat its purpose. So its purpose is to put a limit on learning. The ego is the ego learning only goes so far, okay, and at some point it stops because true learning would mean letting go of the ego because it's not a true thought. So learning implies that we are opening the mind to truth, right? And releasing error, right? That's what learning is. Learning is undoing error. Okay. So, the ego will only let us learn and undo error up to a point where its own existence is not threatened. And therefore it does not learn the truth at all. The ego cannot help us learn the truth. That's why we have to let go of the ego to learn the truth. 3, the Holy Spirit teaches you to use what the ego has made to teach the opposite of what the ego has learned. Yes, so the ego is upside down thinking. And therefore, the Holy Spirit has to use that upside down thinking to teach us the opposite of what we have learned with the ego, which is what is true, because it's the opposite of what is false, which we have learned with the ego to be true, but it's not really true. It's upside down. Okay, and it says that the kind of learning is irrelevant, as is the particular ability that was applied to the learning. The kind of learning is as irrelevant as is the particular ability that was applied to the learning. All you need to do is make the effort to learn. Okay. So we don't have to get bogged down with specifics, you know, with data, with information, with, you know, am I a good learner? Am I not a good learner? Okay, my particular ability. The Holy Spirit just needs a little willingness on our part to learn the truth, to be willing to open the mind to the truth. And all that means is that I'm not going to protect my beliefs. I'm going to give the Holy Spirit the benefit of the doubt and be okay with learning that I'm wrong. Okay. So in the case with COVID, you know, Yeah, okay. So it's a little hard to just say, okay, well, COVID has no reality, but am I willing to be a little bit open-minded to the possibility that the virus is really not the cause of the sickness? Do I have a little, am I willing, do I leave an open mind to the possibility that that is not the real cause? Okay, that's all the Holy Spirit is asking for, is that I am not so sure that I am right. Because then I'm protecting the ego learning, which is confusing levels. And the Holy Spirit cannot undo what we protect. And so 5 says, all you need to do is make the effort to learn, for the Holy Spirit has a unified goal for the effort. So a little willingness to be open-minded goes a long way with the Holy Spirit. Because then we're not protecting our beliefs in separation and in the belief that the body is creative. And if we can do that and if we can apply that to, all our beliefs, then that can go a really long way. Because the mind will be, what's the word? Will not be so rigid in defending and protecting the ego thought system. And there's trust involved in that. Yeah. You have to develop a certain level of trust in something that is, in something that, let's see, that you can't see with your senses, that you can't perceive with your body's senses, but that deep down, there's something there that says it's true. There's just a tiny, tiny bit of knowing there. Okay. Number 4. All abilities should therefore be given over to the Holy Spirit, who understands how to use them properly. He uses them only for healing because he knows you only as whole. By healing, you learn of wholeness. And by learning of wholeness, you learn to remember God. You have forgotten him, but the Holy Spirit understands that your forgetting must be translated into a new way of remembering. So let's see. So all abilities should therefore be given over to the Holy Spirit, who understands how to use them properly. Okay, well, think about, artistic ability, because we were talking about Sonia and her artwork. Okay, if she gives all of her artistic abilities over to the Holy Spirit knows, he understands how to use those abilities properly. Okay, and he will use those abilities to for healing the mind, which is for communicating spiritual truth through whatever Sonia's abilities bring forth as art. Okay, and people that that and when she shares that art, they will be communicating, resonating, bringing forth, let's see, that within those people that see them, because it's like a tuning fork that resonates within. There's a knowing there. You can't quite identify what it is, but you can resonate to it. Okay, so and that's what healing is. That's what we started with. Healing is the recognition of truth, right? So it helps us to recognize the truth, because he knows you only as whole. And that's the message. That's the communication. You are whole. You are not separate. You are a part of God. You have never left God. You are, divine, innocent, loved, lovable. So that message is there so that we don't so easily believe what the ego is saying. Oh no, you're not lovable. So and so hates you. I was telling you about my granddaughter and her brother, and how sad she was because she said that her brother hated her. And I go, well, how do you know that? Did he say that to you? She's like, yes. And she was really upset. And I go, well, that's not true. It's not possible, because you are love. You are created by love, as love. So you don't have to believe that. Okay. And she said, okay. So so that's what we want to connect to. We need that to be our strength, our source of strength for facing, that kind of rejection. We can easily feel rejected if, yeah, especially someone we looked up to. She looks up to her big brother, and for him to say, oh, I hate you. Well, yeah, that's really tough. So anyway, yeah. So by healing, you learn of wholeness, and that is the truth of what we are. So we have forgotten him, God, but the Holy Spirit understands that your forgetting must be translated into a way of remembering. So the Holy Spirit's using the forgetting to help us remember the truth. So that's the miracle. That's the change in perception. Okay, number 5.
The ego's goal is as unified as the Holy Spirit's, and it is because of this that their goals can never be reconciled in any way or to any extent. The ego always seeks to divide and separate. The Holy Spirit always seeks to unify and heal. As you heal, you are healed, because the Holy Spirit sees no order of difficulty in healing. Healing is the way to undo the belief in differences, being the only way of perceiving the sonship as one. This perception is therefore in accord with the laws of God, even in a state of mind that is out of accord with His. The strength of right perception is so great that it brings the mind into accord with His, because it serves His voice, which is in all of you.
Do you want to share anything, Sonia?
Just thinking about the ego goals, and how it always seeks, in line 2, it always
Yeah.
seeks to divide and separate. Well, I was thinking about all of the planning that I do, like even in my day-to-day life. Like, I didn't really recognize them as goals to divide and separate, but I think that they are. I think that even any plan that I tried to do, like, oh, okay, at this time I'm going to do this. And I mean, sure, in some cases that's necessary, like if you have an appointment that you actually have to schedule. But for a lot of the times, if it's just something like, oh, okay, I'm gonna exercise at this time, and then I'm gonna get work done at this time, and then I kind of like try to plan like my whole day like previously, but they never work. So like something will just come up. Maybe I have somebody that wants to hang out, or maybe like just there's a trip I want to go take or something. Like just something always disrupts that. So I guess I'm wondering if the plans that I make in the future are to divide and separate. Like how could you give me like a clarification on like how that would be used to divide and separate?
Yes. So when you plan, what you're saying is, I want to have control of what I am going to do. Okay. And this is how I take control of my time. Okay. And so if something else comes up, then what you're saying is, no. Okay. I am going to give priority to my plan. Okay. And to give priority to my plan is a way to separate myself, what I want to do, my needs, my sense of individuality as having control of my life from the rest of you, of the world, of what happens in my life. So you're kind of splitting your life because you're splitting your life into what I already decided to do in the past, that was a plan, and what is happening now. So you're separating, so you're splitting the now, okay, into, so you're not able to respond to the now with a whole mind. You've already come into the now with a split mind because you've already made plans. And those plans that you made are actually in the past, even though they were made for the future. Once you get to the now, those plans are actually over and done with. They're in the past. They're not even there. So you're holding on to the past as a way to not address what is present, which is the only time that we really have. So it's a way of separating yourself from now, the present moment.
Okay. Yeah. No, that helps. It's a way to separate myself and divide myself from reality, or accepting things as they are now,
Yes.
essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's helpful. That's all I was just wondering about. Thank you.
Yes. And so what it's saying here is that we cannot reconcile the ego's goal with the Holy Spirit goal. Because the intention is completely going in different directions. So the ego is seeking to divide and separate, and the Holy Spirit is always seeking to unify and heal. So it's a really good way to recognize which of our thoughts are ego thoughts and which of them are thoughts for God. And it's a way to recognize when we are listening to the ego, because it will show up in what we do in our behavior as, separating ourselves or just taking a divisive position, rather than seeking to understand and to unify, which is to heal. We take the position of, you don't understand me, I can't can't be with you because, you're, let's see, what's the word? You're questioning me. You're not, you're not, you're not agreeing with me. You're not, you're disapproving of me. You're whatever. And without recognizing that it's all just projection. The person's not doing any of that. I just think they're doing that because I'm listening to my own thinking and I believe that that's the truth. So that's what I pay attention to. um, and that's the ego because it ends up, as separating and dividing, being upset and all of that. So as you heal, you are healed. So as we choose to unify, and forgiveness obviously is, one of the main ways to unify and therefore to heal. And the forgiveness always implies that what my brother did to me never happened. So as I forgive, I recognize that it's my own mind that's inventing what my brother did. And my brother never did that. I just imagined that I was misinterpreting everything, misperceiving everything. So, um, so, and therefore I was making them separate from myself, different from myself. And healing is the way to undo the belief in differences. We're all exactly the same. Okay, there's no difference. We're all exactly the same. We're in the same boat. We're working through the same problem of separation. It's all the same. Um, and so, the healing journey is really about recognizing there are no differences. And unfortunately, we have to let go of the illusion of being unique, special, and more worthy of success or praise or good luck or fortune than somebody else. None of that is true, but we want to believe it's true. So we do, um, we have to let go of our attachment to those ideas, because they're not in accord with the laws of God. Okay, God created all creation equal, period. So we cannot change how God created us. So we can perceive that we can change how God created us because we can misperceive what we are. We can misperceive that, that we are bad, that we are sinful, that, that so-and-so is evil. We can all, believe that and judge that to be true, but that does not change the truth of how God created us. So the strength of right perception is to recognize that we are all fundamentally the same. There is no fundamental inequality. In all the differences that we see in the world are misperceptions, they're miscreations. And that's what we're undoing, because that's what the healing of the mind is to undo all of that separation that is a perception of differences. Let's see. And there's strength in that. A lot of times people think that there's strength in division, in war, in conflict. And that's not true. That's actually all fear-based. And fear has to make a show to appear strong precisely because it's compensating for weakness. So it's all a self-image of bigness, of strength, of force that is not true power. So strength is right perception, and true power is love. And that is the will of God, and there is nothing greater than the will of God. That's the only reality there is. So number 6.
To think you can oppose the will of God is a real delusion. The ego believes that it can, and that it can offer you its own will as a gift. You do not want it. It is not a gift. It is nothing at all. God has given you a gift that you both have and are. When you do not use it, you forget that you have it. By not remembering it, you do not know what you are. Healing, then, is a way of approaching knowledge by thinking in accordance with the laws of God and recognizing their universality. Without this recognition, you have made the laws meaningless to you. Yet the laws are not meaningless, since all meaning is contained by them and in them. Pretty straightforward. I do not want the gifts of the ego.
Yes. Yes, because the gifts of the ego are basically, let's see, they're the belief that the will of God can be opposed, which is delusion. It's really insanity. And therefore it's sickness. And that's why the mind needs healing. Um, so, um, so to believe that the will of God can be opposed is to believe that there is something greater than the will of God. And therefore, it would not be the will of God.
Could there
So,
be something greater than the will of God?
well, the ego would like us to believe so, but then we would be very deluded because it's contradiction. Okay, you can't start by saying the will of God is everything is all powerful, infinite, and eternal, and then say, well, there's something greater than that. Because you have just denied the very premise that you started with.
I'm
So
just being my facetious self. Is there a super God? Okay, enough silliness.
well, yeah, but that's the problem. The problem is we take that seriously. That's what the ego is. Okay. And to some people, it's fun to imagine that the impossible is possible. Why not have fun? Right? Imagination is is um, is the way that we can turn the truth upside down and then completely fool ourselves. Who else are we fooling? We're not fooling God. um, and so let's see. It is nothing at all. So to not, when you do not use it, so to just live in our imagination, and to not use the gift that we have been given, is really to sleep. That's what mind asleep is. Okay, because you're not using the gifts of the Holy Spirit. You're not developing those gifts. You forgot that you have them. So by not remembering them, you do not know what you are. So now we don't know what we are. We think we're a body, and we're going to be afraid of viruses. We're going to be afraid of COVID. And, and either way, whether we catch COVID or not, the body's going to die. So, it's a matter of time. Every single body dies. whether it's by war, but whether it's by, getting killed by a shooter, mass shooter, or whether it's by sickness or whatever. Every single body dies. So there's no escape. There's no escape. And so the only way out is through healing, healing the mind. So and all that healing is remembering to think in accordance with the laws of God and recognizing their universality. We're all the same. We're not, we can't be bodies because God's not a body and God created us in his likeness. And that's universally true. God is unconditional love, and that is universally true. So no one is excluded from the love of God. That is universally true. So let's see. I am as God created me. That is universally true. And we can imagine that it's not true, but that doesn't change it. So without this recognition, what we've done is we've made an imaginary world that is meaningless because it's contradictory. Okay. And therefore it's confusing and it's very scary. Because you can't depend on anything. There's no stability. There's no certainty. And there's no safety. Where's your safety? Well, you just kind of grasp at, straw for safety. Because yes, you're going to have to wear a mask because where's COVID? You can't even see the virus. How do you know who has it? How do you know that you aren't even a carrier and don't even have symptoms? Yeah, it's all just meaningless because it's there's nothing there. Okay, number 7. Is it my turn? Whose turn is in? Yeah, my turn. Okay, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, because that is where the laws of God operate truly. And they can operate only truly because they are the laws of truth. But seek this only because you can find nothing else. There is nothing else. God is all in a very literal sense. All being is in him who is all being. You are therefore in him, since your being is his. Healing is a way of forgetting the sense of danger the ego has induced in you by not recognizing its existence in your brother. This strengthens the Holy Spirit in both of you because it is a refusal to acknowledge fear. Love needs only this invitation. It comes freely to all the sonship, being what the sonship is. By your awakening to it, you are merely forgetting what you are not. This enables you to remember what you are. Okay. Okay, so seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. That's where the laws of God operate fully, because there are no blocks to those. There are no blocks to those laws because there are no ego thoughts. That belief is not there. The belief in separation is not there. And they can operate only truly because they are the laws of truth. But seek this only because you can find nothing else. So yeah, so it's just about, let's see. becoming more and more consistent with seeking only the laws of truth. Because through experience, we have realized that there is nothing else. We come out empty-handed when we seek anything else, because there is nothing else. So God is all in a very literal sense. All being is in him who is being. So reality is being, and being is in God, and all being is God. And we all share in that. So you are therefore in him, since your being is in him. That's our essential essence, our true self, our true essential nature. Healing is a way of forgetting the sense of danger the ego has induced in you by not recognizing its existence in your brother. So to not recognize the mind as healed in my brother is to be afraid of my brother, because I'm going to be afraid he's insane. Okay. And that's just a reflection of my own thinking, which is insane. So it just means that my mind is not healed if I see it in my brother. So I have not sought only God. I have not, let's see, seek ye a kingdom of heaven. So I have not been only seeking the kingdom of heaven, but I have been accepting the thoughts of the ego, which is delusion. And now they're getting projected, and I see it in my brother, and I get scared because what I see is insanity and uncertainty, and I don't know if, and I'm afraid because I see darkness instead of the light. So let's see. So by forgetting the sense of danger that the ego has induced in you, we strengthen the Holy Spirit. Because the safety issue becomes very, very, what's the word? Becomes very fundamental to the survival instinct. And that survival instinct is so well entrenched in our nervous system that we really have to be, what's the word? Vigilant. We have to be very, very vigilant to not let that take over. Because then we will be taking direction from fear, and that is sickness. So healing is the release of fear, and healing is the recognition of truth. That fear is not real. So so that's what it says. This strengthens the Holy Spirit in both of you because it is a refusal to acknowledge fear. Love needs only this invitation. It comes freely to all of the sonship, being what the sonship is. So the sonship is love, okay, not fear. That's where, the trust comes in. I trust my brother who is one with me. By your awakening to it, you are merely forgetting what you are not. We are not fearful. We are loving. So this enables you to remember what you are. Okay. Okay, so any questions? That's it for that section. So healing is the recognition of truth. And the truth is love. Okay, that's the foundation. So we have to, at some point, decide what we want to believe our essential true nature is, period. Is it loving or not? Okay. And it's a decision because there's going to be plenty of evidence in the world that says, oh no, our essential nature is not loving. Okay. So we have to be very, what's the word? We have to recognize that perception is very easily manipulated, and and there's a reason why that was the first separation from knowledge to perception, is because perception can be twisted and distorted. And it can show us anything we want to see because it's basically imagination. If it's not knowledge, okay, then it's basically not knowing. And when you're in a space of not knowing, that's when your imagination kicks in and you start inventing all kinds of stories and all kinds of narratives and all kinds of, well, that's, this is possible, or, uh, anything can happen in the imagination. So, so it's like free, what's the word? It's like giving free rein to your worst nightmares. you know and and then um and then you get so caught up in the fear that you think it's real, and then you're really stuck because you have forgotten that it's just your imagination you know um so anyway, okay, so that was the healing as a recognition of truth. And next time it's going to be healing and the changelessness of mind. Okay. All right. So I guess that's it for today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And we'll see you next time.